All right. It is October 27th, 2025. CodeStream 4.1. Gonna start it with a GitHub push to this fresh repo and hitting enter. All right. This is active inference for, with, by generative AI, an experiment. This is using the recently updated Cursor 2.014 update and using mostly probably the quote free usage of the code Supernova 1 million model, which is available without cost through Cursor right now. Initially just kicking it off with this plan mode for setting the initial structure of this repo by Claude, which we're going to respond to these questions and go from there. And the big question is going to be just what can happen with starting from scratch on a day like today with large language models? How far can we get with exploring this kind of new parallel agent interface feature in Cursor? Okay, first some clarifying questions from, and I'll watch live chat if people have any comments or questions. Otherwise, I just want to see in around maybe 1 hour or so things that I might do. Anyway, just how far can it go? What directions can we take it? What kinds of information are we going to get? What structures? All right. Primary technical stack and deployment target. Hybrid. Python core with multiple interface. Target audience and use case priority. Researchers, students, practitioners. 1D. 3. Active inference implementation scope. Educational, research grade, both. Include integration with existing libraries. 2, 3, C and D. 4, visualization, all the above. Of course, 4D. 5, knowledge repository. Linear, modular, research paper, multipath. All of the above. 6, initial development phase, parallel development. So we'll see where this plan mode gets with laying out the initial structure in Claude, and then we'll see where this code Supernova 1 million is going. So this is the build plan that Claude 4.5 Sonnet is laying out for that dialogue, which began with this prompt, which I just typed out manually before the stream just so we could start this process. Comprehensively plan for creating the most comprehensive integrated knowledge environment for active inference and free energy principle education, research, visualization, and application. You have maximum agentic capacities for technical work. Start and proceed for considering all nested structures, documentation, tests, thin orchestrators, and including rigorous, accessible, structured educational knowledge repository. So that is happening now. We'll quickly work through it, and from here on out, there will probably be more happening than we can linearly see, but that will be part of the fun. Okay, architecture overview. Subsections: core, models, visualizations, interfaces, knowledge, integrations, orchestrations, tests, and docs. Mathematical computational core. Knowledge repository. We can refactor within modules or see if it will be able to import or export different formats. Visualization, interfaces, integration layer, orchestration, testing strategy, documentation, phases, and then here change over to the supernova. Okay, so this new feature with a multiple X, very slot machine, very perp coded, using multiples, trading multiples, leveraged coding, going even more than just laying out multiple chats, which we'll do as well, but having these sub tabs within a chat with possibly parallel. Once some of the top level stuff gets laid out, then we'll branch into that mode. But first, let's see what this initial implementation is doing. I guess for kind of simplicity slash purity, I wanted to see what only one thread would do. But we can just go with that 4x. And let's just let those different. So this first tab was, maybe it's writing it as a commit that it'll bring in all in one go. Okay, here we go. There's 4 subtabs. Oh, they're working in separate work trees. Let's also do one without a work tree. So background, work tree, or local, that's one of the new. So now with 1x, this one might just make a direct commit to back in the good old days when it would just make the direct commit. All right. Yeah, it happens at an interesting speed. Okay. So now things are, someone's doing something. Okay. So this is, of course, the fun of this experiment. What really should be in this kind of repo? What's a good hour to do or see that's going to give us something that we might be able to use going forward, or at least the process was useful? What can we learn about how to structure this kind of first principles or alternative ways to juxtapose the education component with the research and the code? It's a longer project to actually have a more compliant code execution method. So I don't expect that we're going to have all of the code methods within 1 hour, but I'm very interested to see how with these multiple parallel writers or reviewers, if we can get them to do it, how much on the just plain text article structure, how much of the latent space of the LLMs can we get encoded into these documentations? Okay, so each of them are making edits in a different work tree. Now, all right, within knowledge, some JSON structured modules of content are starting to come in. There's a kind of knowledge graph architecture where different learning paths are being structured by nodes, going through different nodes. So this can be a helpful modular knowledge base approach. We can have like learning paths with calling different nodes, and then a script that's checking, do we have all those nodes, or are there nodes that aren't in paths, or paths that reference nodes that don't exist, and then use those. And so then we could manually add a topic here, save a plain text file, have the node get created and versioned, basically make sure there's just consistent reference of these paths and the node basis. So okay, that should be a good format. Docs for documentation on this package itself. We will see if there are ways to automatically generate the documentation so that it stays strongly updated with other sections rather than just sort of vibe updated, which might be good enough. Platform folder has different sort of application layer features of this platform. Research, different stages of research. We can add different modules. Then a source folder. That will have different methods related to different parts of the package. Tests, sitting off by itself, calling into the SRC. Tools, not sure why that's up there rather than in source, but can be moved or kept. Same as visualization. Okay. So let's close the work tree approaches and just work within this single path. So start up a new chat. Well, first, here's one piece. So pull everything in. Ensure that every level of folder has a readme.md and agents.md for all documentation and signposting. So that'll make the repo also more navigable by these agents. Then let's focus on stop that path. Obviously, I'm just taking a sort of haphazard approach. This is just playing around, starting and stopping threads, seeing what happens. There are other in different ways. I'm just trying to prune and shape different ways, check responsivities, understand how the niche can be structured through time, and what happens when we start from a blank slate. All these kinds of things. But with models that are reflecting their literal bias on these topics. So visualization, move visualization in, same as tools. So just so that the top level is kind of how we want to see it. making examples. No. Okay. Then just in cursor, making sure that it's resyncing. Stop that one just so that it gets the new updated ordering. All right, now let's make many more folders and modules and full JSON structured objects for all relevant active inference topics. Then continue to develop the automatic technical documentation and repo review functions for docs. The SRC folder should have modules for each of the other top level folders of the active inference package. So that'll be at least these methods for each of those, and other modules like tools, math, LLM, etc. All right. So this one is writing README, which I guess is the sort of human readable markdown form, and agents.md, which it's kind of like a soft MCP in a way. It hopefully stays aligned with the content of its folder in terms of giving a little bit more technical documentation. And then README can be more human readable, possibly, but they also just provide more information, just more relevant, updatable context. If the model's name is true, and this information says that this model has a 1 million token context window, so for reference, GPT-5, 272,000, Claude 4.5, 200,000, Gemini 2.5, 200,000. So this is quite large context window. So possibly that means that just loading it up with these informative files is positive. All right. So that one is making documentation. This one is writing the knowledge foundation files. That one is making tools within the SRC. That one is in the visualization. Okay. So let's start up another one with readme and agents.md. Write all modules for thin orchestrator, which is to say the main source code for the methods are in the SRC folder, tested by tests folder. for all stages of the research process, all different functions and roles, e.g., intern, PhD student, grant application, publishing, hypothesis, ideating, documenting, etc., etc. Okay. Just periodically checking in across these different threads, seeing if they're still active. Uh, of course, one interesting feature is the extended duration of how long one prompt, not just in seconds, but how productive, how generative, for better and worse, indifferent, one prompt can be. So back in the early cursor versions, there wasn't even this agent mode. So it'd just be kind of like musket style. These now we're getting into situations where the there's a extensive edit series, and so it's just raising up a lot of uh, questions, even if only where is this haphazard? Where are there more curated sections of code or knowledge repositories, or where are we just doing an experiment like this and just kind of seeing how much we can produce in short time? All right. Okay. Applications folder. In applications folder, add a folder sign posted and in readme linked for all domains of learning and application. There will be entry points for use, bundling, interfaces for the methods of the rest of the package. All right, that's the 6 tabs of 1x agents at this point is how many can happen. All right. Making sure that the indexing is always updated so that at least they're working off the same, but to some extent mitigated by this separation modularly into different components of the repo. And that'll be improved when we get a free hand, and then we can revisit the top level, make sure that the top level, which is where any package level information is going to be, that accurately starts to reflect what's in these modules. Okay. Still, this is the document one. Let's stop this one. Here we can see that I don't know how accurate or what this includes, but it says that only 15% of the context window has been used. Assess the whole package and the top level. Ensure the top level overview, readme.md and agents.md and all top level stuff is most organized and comprehensive, ready for referencing into the readme and agents of nested folders. here building out the articles and underlying topics. They're probably not all of a identical structure yet, but we'll see how we can work with that still. That thread is building tools. That thread is also building tools, so I'm going to stop that one so that they don't step on each other's toes. That one is also building tools. Stop that one. That one, domains. All right. All right. Stop the tool building threads just so that we could confirm that we're resynced. Then selecting all the SRC section, review SRC modules, ensure that README and all folders are all updated, and fractal action plan for first making the README, because we're still early in this package's development, agents at each folder level with what methods should be there. Later we will fill in the methods. We never want mock or fake methods though. So for now, just starting with folder structure and README and agents. Okay, so now that is our, so now that thread is on the SRC folder. This thread is still on the knowledge domains. Knowledge foundations. This one's application domains. Knowledge foundations, application domains. And this one is the top level documentation. Okay. Now, let's see if there's another. Okay. Now, doesn't seem like anyone is working actively on the research folder. Add more folders, README, agents, .md, etc. for all steps of the research process. Then 6th chat, add a top level .cursor rules with accurate, relevant, total information for this active inference repo. Sure, it is most information laden for agentic use, all folder structures. Rules for us. We always strive to, quote, show not tell. Oh. Do the right and full, best, true, real methods and reporting and analysis and testing and documentation and integrated modular systems, encode the best version of what I could be saying and meaning with all this in those .cursor rules and other documentation top level and withins. Okay, so even within these one thread, these are the action plan. So other agentic interfaces like KiloCode, they give different visibilities. That's definitely a moving frontiers. How much visibility and control into different features of the model? How much kind of meta or exocognitive control or visibility do we have into each of these threads? Okay. So the first tab is still creating README and agents. If the file's already there, it's going to overwrite. So since that one's kind of doing this, like, it's important that that function of checking for agents and README files is updated. So again, I just sort of sometimes restart those functionalities, scan the whole repo, ensure it is accurate and complete, and with signposts at every nested folder level, agents.md and readme.md with mermaid diagrams. So this is the concluding report of the knowledge thread. So here, again, this is maybe within the context window of this model, or maybe only summaries come through. Review this, add more topics. Eventually we'll have some kind of format, read in and read out for these JSON. We'll put that in the SRC. For the SRC on knowledge, we'll read in and read out and visualize these JSONs. As many JSON as possible within the existing folders and making new folders. All right. This is the domain. So I'm just going to stop, resync, comprehensively proceed with improving and adding domains. This is on 4 of 15 deep into this README agent creation. This one looks like it just stopped, but it isn't done yet. So that's why I just flipped through these tabs, just to see that nothing has halted early. This is the one making the cursor rules. So this is the top level cursor rules. And again, this is a kind of ping pong development method with have an overview or cursor rules or these different distilled representations, and then have that reflected in the folders. Have a norm of README and agents and other documentation methods. So then there's coherence locally between among the folder level documentation and methods and other folders. And then the top level of the repo, or just the more trunk levels, have accurate integrative information it's all part of this kind of like scale-free, everything is documentation approach. Everything is meaning approach. Here's the, okay, back to the beginning one. I'm going to remove the code stream. I'll copy this information into the README. All right. All right. Knowledge topics. Also, let's see what this looks like with foam. Yeah. So this is the foam software within Cursor IDE. And it uses a few different linking methods. So it's kind of like it's like a quasi obsidian inside of the development environment. Just kind of cool to see the graph of the package. All right. Okay. Topics. All right, then topics. All right, domains. I'm gonna halt domains. Make LLM folder in SRC. In LLM folder with readme and agents.md, add all methods for Olama local LLM, including tests and pull and serve, so that we use Gemma 3 model or whatever is on hand for flexible modular prompt composition and local LLM use. We have Olama installed at home. All right, so now that knowledge thread looks like it has jumped into applications across the domains. So then we also have that applications folder. But I guess this will be the actual applications, and this will be knowledge about those applications. So again, kind of that ping pong approach, having two or more references, cross references to each other, and then have those with a supervisory or not approach, so that those either you know when they are aligned, like we can have tools for document, or we can just use LLM calls for assessing whether they're semantically aligned, or like whether there's a one-to-one relation or whether there's overlap or information on one that's not in the other. All right. That's the knowledge thread. This one is writing documentation for within the SRC. This one is making the phases of research. All right, the cursor rules one is complete. we'll just check again that all folders and files are complete and accurate and most relevant. README at every folder, and then it will just sort of continue to spiral out these hierarchical systems. Definitely makes me curious about what other organizations can we have for the information other than folder, because it seems like a lot of the work is being done by the English and around norms around what the folders are and the folders having meaning by their title. So what other ways to have a hierarchically structured repository like this um, without a specific folder structure? Maybe some database, maybe all just nodes. Right. Okay. So that. All right. So that was on the knowledge writing side. Now in SRC, start a new thread. In SRC knowledge, check the JSON format of the knowledge database. Ensure that we can read in and work with the JSON structure and enforce it in the knowledge database using the methods from SRC knowledge as tested by tests. Right, this thread, give this one a little context refresh. Assess what needs to be done anew in this frame and way. And then all right, this is still research phases. Oh, looks like that one has ended. But it still has some of these to-dos. All right, there's the LLM methods. All right. Six is probably a good number. We could use a few more. Maybe for another time to look more into the work trees, learn how to use that work trees, or how would it be similar or different to using these? Because if it could be another 4x, then we could at least see what other What 0 to 0.8 can we get? Where is it a real 0 to 1? Where is it like a 1 to down to a 0.5? All right. Let's update the GitHub and just see what it looks like. Well, those proceed. All right. A comprehensive integrated platform for active inference and free energy principle education, research, visualization, and application development. This repository provides a structured, accessible knowledge environment that bridges theoretical foundations with practical applications built through collaborative intelligence between humans and AI. Just change between to among, of course. Mission and vision. Okay. This is where, if these references into the README and the agents are accurate and they look like they are, then it is even within this folder paradigm, there still can be very scaffolded reference. Okay. All right. So here's the LLM getting tested. From there, we can start using the LLM to call on the knowledge methods and render different things. All right, this one halted. Ensure this one just repurposing it slightly for documentation. All documentation at top level and is accurate and complete. So now that one's on documentation. This one looks like it's hanging on a make deer, which shouldn't hang. So just sending a disrupt to proceed with the to-dos. This one now looks like it's checking through and either making or updating README, technical README. I'm not sure whether the ASCII images are more informative or whether mermaid diagrams are more informative. Mermaid diagram, on one hand, requires markdown, but on the other hand, these are also kind of maybe more tokens, but it depends a lot on the style. So this is the phases of research. Phases and subphases of research. That one's still testing the LLM methods. Here's definitely an area where having it just feels like a wheel that gets reinvented at every single repo. Okay. Flip over to 4.5 just to see if it's faster. Just for one message. See if it... Let's just close this thread. All right. Technical readme. More readme. All right. All right. Finish the LLM. Ensure all LLM methods are fixed, tested, successful, real, documented, etc. We have Llama already installed. Get it 100% working. Here, even I don't even know if it'll be better. Maybe different LLMs are better at like some certain framework, or maybe they have different familiarity with different packages, different knowledge cutoffs. Here's writing the methods for the SRC knowledge database that's going to peer into the knowledge section. Here we'll just have this one. Get all context. Add as many complete JSON files and folders as will be best for this comprehensive knowledge database. Okay, gonna stop that technical documentation. Improve the testing infrastructure. Sure, we have working comprehensive testing structure. Use UV for all package and environment methods as needed. Make all tests runners set up top level. This one is running terminal commands to find where there are README files or where they're missing. Making agents files. Review and this. Oh, so some. Oh, it's indexing the virtual environment that was just set up. Maybe that'll. Yep, that'll fix it. Okay. Olama still in progress, but there's other repos I can bring in the methods from, but just want to see if it can do it from scratch. Here's the methods in the methods in the source code for checking the knowledge graph. This one's still in its planning. Just to get another, we'll just pass that to Grok Code Fast 1. See if it starts faster. There we go. All right, that one finished. All right. Let's make a new thread focusing on ensure all modules, including math and have a folder and included in and documented. Then work on whatever needs to be done. All right, that one's looking for where there's agents. All right, so that one's working on README and agents. This one is running the test, fixing the tests for the LLM. This one looks like it has completed the test suite for reading in and out the JSON. Run those commands. Ensure we can read in, confirm, and output /save plus log, where we output as markdowns in a subfolder of single output folder. After it syncs, okay. This is just making the JSON, writing long, technical, accurate articles within the JSONs. Yeah. Okay. Here also is hitting the same test fails, so that could lead to little back and forth if the testing is getting to working on it. Okay. Okay. It is testing and finding the Olama. Here is the JSON. Okay. Output folder. Content analysis report. Let's look at it online. Reload. Reload. All right, output, content analysis. Okay, there's our articles. reports, different dependencies. Export's not working. All right, that looks good. All right. All right, I'm gonna end it here. Hopefully that's a useful or interesting 1 hour. Pretty fun to see just what can get spun out really fast. Fun stuff to see. So, all right.